Good morning and welcome. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. It is the 6th day of July 2021. I am your grumpy guy to all things gaming, bringing you all the news, weather, and sports as it relates to our hobby, Dungeons and Dragons, and role-playing, and smooth stuff. You might be wondering what this picture from a certain cartoon is doing up on your face. Well, that's because we postulated a couple weeks ago a Dungeons and Dragons theme park because one of the many things that came out of the flurry of information from the formation of the new TSR Empire was that they were going to do a Dungeons and Dragons theme park to follow up with the Dungeons and Dragons Museum. And of course, I was like, oh, come on, somebody's already done a Dungeons and Dragons theme park, right? I mean, there's an unofficial World of Warcraft theme park in Beijing or Korea or wherever it is. I should probably look that up okay. World of Warcraft theme park. That's in China. Yeah. The unofficial World of Warcraft theme park in China. Because, Blizzard doesn't get any money from China, so of course they'd be totally against a World of Warcraft theme park. So I was like, oh, come on, there's got to be a Dungeons & Dragons theme park. And turns out, well, not so much. There sort of is, but not really. I mean, there are plenty of places that have castles, plenty of places that do the whole medieval knight dragon thing. Many of those, I think probably a few of them even predate Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, there's plenty of roadside attractions and miniature golf courses with castles and dragons and knights, but very few have used the Dungeons and Dragons name. In fact, there is technically no Dungeons and Dragons theme parks, but there is two so far that I've discovered that are close. One is probably more well-known, and the second one is a little lesser well-known. Now, the first one, of course, is Evermore in Utah. Evermore is a big, sprawling outdoor thingy that's sort of Ren Fair meets Warcraft meets D&D-ish. There's people that walk around in costume. Think Harry Potter world over at Universal. It's outside. There's buildings you can go in. There's quests you can take. There's things you can do with your character. It's kind of Ren Fairy meets Harry Potter land with a little theme, Dungeons and Dragons theme thing. But it's really more themed towards like the video games, like EverQuest and Warcraft than D&D. That one's been in the news and stuff like that, especially around Halloween. The second one is Boo Park in Illinois. Boo Castle, also known as Dungeons & Dragons Park, is a privately owned memorial park located somewhere in Illinois. Is it Illinois? Yes. It was opened in 1993 by a man whose son loved Dungeons & Dragons and was killed in a car crash. And this gentleman, in honor of his son and his love of his hobby, bought a 3.5 acre plot of land and dedicated this park to his son. It's dedicated themed D&D because his son was a huge fan of the game. It's a fantasy-inspired playground piece. It's got wood, stone, tile, metal, cement. The park is open usually during the summer between sunrise and sunset. Entrance is free, limited capacity, and of course donations to the charities opened up in the son's name are welcome. It's mostly walk-through storybook land with displays, no animatronics, no theme rides, nothing like that. It's just it's got castles with hidden doors and tunnels and stairs. There's hidden things in every crevice. There's statues. They're modeled after characters that the young child played when he was playing D&D. There's things in the trees and monsters and everything there. But it's just a walkthrough, kind of storybook land, D&D inspired, dedicated to this man's son. So, way to go, dude, to embrace your son and your love of the son and the love of the hobby by building this whole park dedicated to him and making it free to the public. Wow. And according to this, is still open, as is Evermore, weather permitting. But that's it. There is no other D&D theming parks. I mean, there's plenty of castle parks and, like I said, fantasy park, medieval park, stuff like that. But that's about it. That's all we can find. You would think somebody would have done the same thing that China did and make an unofficial Dungeons and Dragons park by now, but no. But we can look at the unofficial Dungeons and Dragons park in China and use that as an inspiration for what we might see for an inevitable Dungeons and Dragons theme park. I don't know who could make a Dungeons and Dragons theme park. See, the thing is, the TSR is saying they're going to make a Dungeons and Dragons theme park, except, of course, they can't, because they can't use the name Dungeons and Dragons. Just like their Dungeons and Dragons museum. Without giving Wizards of the Coast money, they can't call it a Dungeons and Dragons museum. They could call it a TSR museum, but that name, Dungeons and Dragons, is owned by Wizards of the Coast. So they could call it the TSR theme park, or the Gygax theme park, or the fantasy role-playing game theme park, but they can't call it the Dungeons and Dragons theme park without giving Wizards of the Coast the same percentage that anybody else who uses the name would have to give. But if you look at the pictures of the World of Warcraft theme park and then figure, yeah, you're not going to have that level of money, I would think, there's plenty of fantasy-themed fair rides that could be easily purchased and placed on the land. Walk through castle type thingies are no big deal. There's hundreds of those. Building a roller coaster and then just slapping on a few gargoyles and dragons and stuff, that could be possible, though slightly more expensive. It sort of depends on what their budget is. I mean, if we're talking traveling fair level theme park, with just, theme park rides, like merry-go-rounds and tilt-a-whirls and things like that. What's that? A couple grand? Maybe $1 million? I don't know how much it actually costs to. If I'm using Ventura Fair as my basis for, and then figuring just as a permanent summer fair kind of thing with booths and I don't know. It probably costs. What would that cost in today's market? Probably $1 million to do that. $2 million, maybe $3 million. I mean, to buy the rides, if you want to buy quality fair level rides, those are going to cost you, 10, 15 grand each. For the good ones, the cheaper ones, probably 2, 3, 4 grand. But I assume they're going to want some level of quality, and they're going to want to maintain a theme of fantasy-ish, which means rides are either going to have to be reskinned if they're pre-existing out-of-the-box thrill rides, like, a merry-go-round or a tilt-a-whirl or something like that. But then if they want like an actual dark ride or something, then we're getting into a little bit more money. I'd have to do a little bit more researchy to see how much it would actually cost to build a D&D theme park. A fantasy theme park, because you can't call it D&D, and what would be the bare minimum? I mean, bare minimum walk through storybook land like Boo Park, with maybe 1 or 2 fair level rides for a couple booths where you shoot water into the mouth of a gargoyle and win a stuffed beholder or something, I guess. I don't know. I'm surprised there isn't a Dungeons and Dragons theme park yet. But I don't know if actually could be feasible. I mean, you could definitely build a fantasy theme park. That's not that bad hard. But keeping a theme park running is tough. Anyway, so there you go. We wanted to know if a Dungeons and Dragons theme park had ever actually existed, and the closest we have is Boo Castle and Evermore here in the United States, and of course all the fantasy themed, castle themed, medieval themed places throughout the world, but specifically D&D. That's it. Unless, of course, you're counting the World of Warcraft theme park in China, then that would be it. All right, there you go. If you appreciate this content, you know what to do. Talk to you later. Have a great day. See ya.